he'd like to make.
Thank you, Chairman Culberson, and I would like to join you in welcoming NASA Acting Administrator Mr. Robert Lightfoot to the subcommittee. I was saddened to learn of your impending departure from the agency. I just wanted to take a moment to thank you for your dedication and service to our nation. It means a lot to all of us. NASA is in charge of conducting civilian space activities in science and aeronautics research. I am a strong supporter of NASA, have always been, and believe that its program help America maintains itself as a world leader in space exploration and the scientific arena to develop those technologies. Not only do NASA's mission inspire so many people around the world, but they also help us innovate and address challenges that confront our nation. The budget blueprint for fiscal year 2019 requests $19 billion for NASA, which is an $844 million decrease from the 2018 enacted level. While NASA provides funding for a number of science and exploration activities, the budget proposal reduces funding for a number of important areas. I'm particularly concerned that although funding is continued for the education activities of NASA's Science Mission Directorate, this request zeroes out funding for 3 long-standing programs within NASA's Office of Education that help inspire the next generation of scientists. I strongly oppose the elimination of these programs. Mr. Chairman, I hope that we can work together in a bipartisan manner to preserve these programs that so greatly benefit the American people, just as we did for FY2018 just a few weeks ago. I would further like to call attention to President Trump's inadequate request for Earth science, which is a cut of $136.8 million below fiscal year 2018. We need to place a high priority on NASA's Earth science research, and I look forward to discussing this topic further today. In addition, I'm concerned by the intent to eliminate the Wide Field Infrared Survey Telescope. This project received $150 million in 2018 and was ranked as the highest scientific priority space astrophysics mission by the 2010 Decadal Survey. We need to have a serious conversation on this project. I also look forward to hearing from Acting Administrator Lightfoot on NASA's long-term plans for human space exploration, which will require significant amounts of money for research and advanced communication systems. By the way, if you're short of people to send up, Chairman and I could give you a list of a couple of people. To grow in communication systems, entry, descent, and landing capabilities, and ways to protect astronaut health during long, deep space missions, among other things. All of these improvements will require massive amounts of money over a long period. Lastly, Mr. Chairman, as you very well know, I'm also a strong supporter of the Arecibo Observatory and believe that we must maintain strong support for its mission. NASA's FY2019 budget request includes funding for NASA activities at the observatory, and I would like to hear more about this work. NASA helps drive scientific research and innovation in our nation. For almost 60 years now, our country has stood behind NASA by making investments to explore space and the cosmos, as well as to research our own planet and to develop cutting-edge aeronautics technologies. Thank you once again, Acting Administrator Lightfoot, for joining us today, and I look forward to discussing these important issues with you. The chairman surprised me by not making an opening statement, and I thought of not making one, but then I wouldn't be on the record.
No, we are, as you know, NASA is one of those things that we work together arm in arm on. Very grateful for your support, Joe. Everyone in the subcommittee is a strong supporter of the work that NASA does, and that reflects the will of the country. That is their unanimous support for the work that NASA does, and we have, working together, made sure that NASA had a record level of increase. We've got almost to $21 billion. We were committed to get you north of 20. We did so with the help of Chairman Shelby. He's been a terrific supporter. Mr. Averholt, State of Alabama, State of Mississippi, we have strong support for NASA across the country, and comes with that, though, that increased funding comes increased responsibility, and we're confident that you and your new CFO are going to be good stewards of our constituents' hard-earned tax dollars. One of the things I do want to focus on, and I hope you'll mention in your testimony, and I'll talk about in my opening questions, is the 51-year roadmap that we enacted into the 2018 Appropriations Bill, beginning with a search for life on other worlds and moving on to identifying the nearest Earth-like planet and then launching humanity's first interstellar mission no later than the 100th anniversary of Neil Armstrong setting foot on the moon. So we'll hope you'll talk about that. And the reason I didn't really mention much about the budget is that, as you know, the appropriations bill is what matters.
Right.
So that the
I know.
budget, we try not to get too worked up about the budget in this committee. That's just a recommendation of the Congress. The President proposes and the Congress will dispose.
Yes.
But we have your back, Administrator Lightfoot. We're delighted to have you here today and look forward to your testimony. To the extent you can summarize it, will be appreciated, and then we'll enter, of course, your testimony in
Mr.
its
Chairman,
entirety.
if I may, for
Yes,
a
sir.
second, to go off a little bit here, but as you leave, I hope you spread the word around that this member of Congress, and I know the chairman agrees with me, I've been in public office 44 years, state assembly and in Congress, and there is nothing more exciting to bring to a school than an astronaut. When you bring an astronaut to a school, it is total mayhem and ooh, I mean, it's just wonderful. And how did you stay up there and what did you do? And I remember one year we flew the Puerto Rican flag, and then 7 years later we flew the Dominican flag, and we had a presentation at a local college, and astronauts came, and astronauts are heroes and,
Yep.
and sheroes. And so please, on your way out the door, say, hey, let's keep working with the schools.
And there's no better way to ignite a spark of enthusiasm and excitement in a kid's heart than introducing them to an astronaut and the possibility that they might be one. And I'm very grateful for my letter of rejection as a astronaut. Thank you very much. I was proud to apply and to be rejected. I have it framed on my wall.
Was that last year?
Yeah, I did. I applied for the last class. And if we can't be an astronaut, we can be there to help you, make sure that they keep flying and that America's program is the best on Earth. So we welcome your testimony and your testimony in its entirety. If there is no objection, will be entered into the record. We look forward to hearing from you. Thank you so much, Robert, for being with us today.
Thank you. I also support the chairman going up in space, but only with the condition that he allows me to be the one that wakes him up with one of my opening statements, and that'll guarantee that he'll oversleep, but anyway. Mr. Lightfoot, as you have... I tried it as a career and it didn't work, so it's, why should it work here, you know?
Want us to do the ba-dum-bum?
Yes, yes. Mr. Lightfoot, as you have noted in your testimony, the administration is proposing significant funding over many years for a lunar orbital platform gateway to enable missions on and around the moon. In an era of challenging federal budgets and competing priorities, what are the best arguments for how this is worthy of significant public investment? How will this program differ from the work of the Apollo program 50 years ago? Is there a case to be made that this is a new endeavor that pushes the envelope of space exploration, or is this mostly a repeat of the activities of the Apollo program?
Yes, sir. I actually believe this is a new endeavor. We're going to stay. We're going on a sustainable approach, and we're also not just going to the moon. We're building systems that allow us to use those systems to even go on to Mars eventually, is what we're doing. And I think what I see is the value of this endeavor is so many things. The engagement of our industrial base in this country in a new endeavor is big. Our international partner relationship and including them is going to be big. But the biggest thing I think you're going to get out of this is a whole new leadership and inspiration piece that we bring to the next generation. If you go back to Apollo, that's one thing I would say is going to be like Apollo. If you go back to Apollo and you look at engineering schools before we tried to do what we did, the ripple effect of doing Apollo through our culture and what it did from an educational perspective, we expect the same thing. And I think that's what great nations do, is they take these challenges and it brings other people along with them, and I think that's why it's worth it.
This object, what do we call it? What's going to go around the moon?
The Gateway, the lunar orbiting platform, or Gateway.
Okay. It will stay there for how long?
We think as long as we can keep it there, several years, it'll be reused. It will not have humans on it all the time. It'll just be a platform that we can go to and from Earth to there. And our objective, our thought is that we'll use landers, and whether they're scientific or human, and they can go to and from the moon to the platform. We can reload the landers. We can do everything we want to do from the platform. The other advantage to the platform with the propulsion system we're building is you can move it around. And unlike space station, which has a certain inclination, we can't change its inclination today. Around the moon, you can do stuff on the backside of the moon. You can get in different areas with the propulsion system that we've got. And it allows you to actually do science, study of the sun, other kind of science you can do that's not just lunar from this, because you're not blocked by the Earth, things we can't do on space station today. So we had a conference in Denver about a month ago, and we had 74, 75 strong proposals of things you could do that, yes, lunar science, but also other kind of sciences you can do from
Well,
there.
that was my next question. We always know that we learn more every day, but what do you think will come out of this, or you expect to come out of this, that we didn't learn before?
Oh, well, I think if we go for the long duration here, we're going to talk about learning what we can do with this. The goal would be with these landers is the first ones will go almost as our scouts to start to tell us where to go look for volatiles in the regolith, the surface of the moon. We'll take another set to go back and see, can we prospect that? It'll be like a step up one version. We'll start trying to prospect to see if, let's say there's water ice there. Can we pull that ice out, and can we do something with it? Because it could become propellant, right, for us to use in the future, or a source of oxygen if we need it in the future. And then ultimately that would lead to human landings, and we would go there in a more sustainable way. But all of those things we're doing are things we're going to need to do if we ever go to Mars, right? These are the kind of systems we're going to have to build. It's different at the moon, no doubt, because there's no atmosphere, but there's still the systems and life support systems and things we'll have to work on. So I think that's just at the moon. But the platform itself is going to have the ability to put instruments on it, just like we do on the space station, to look out from an astrophysics perspective, or look at the sun from a heliophysics perspective when you're not blocked by the Earth.
Right. One more question here, Mr. Chairman. The Trump administration is proposing a significant cut to NASA's STEM education efforts, including the complete elimination of the Space Grant Program and the Minority University Research and Education Program. To what extent could the elimination of these programs hurt the nation's ability to produce impressive numbers of talented space scientists, and to what extent would it compromise NASA's ability to continue to attract a talented future workforce?
Yeah, so if you remember last year we talked about this. We had proposed the cancellation of the education program then, and in the 18 approach it was put back in. So we are ready to execute as we were asked to do in 2018. But what we also did last year is we did a study on how to be more effective with our STEM engagement, and you guys are going to see soon an organizational change that comes up, and instead of the Office of Education, we're going to call it the Next Gen STEM Office, Next Generation STEM, so that we're focused on that next generation with the Education Office we have. In this proposal, we proposed, again, the cancellation of it, and our focus is going to be more on what can we do through the missions. What can we do through International Space Station downlinks and things like that to astronauts in schools? That's going to be how we're going to try to inspire the next generation as we go forward. We think we've got mission, I would call it mission excitement, that gets people inspired again to go. Our missions and our centers actually fund a lot of internships. If you look at the amount of internships NASA does each year, we do about 1,400, and over 1,000 of those are not funded by the Office of Education. They're funded by the missions and the centers themselves. So we think we still have a good footprint to be able to inspire and bring in the next generation.
You know, Mr. Chairman, in closing, one of the not well-kept secrets is that years ago, NASA went to the University of Puerto Rico, Mayagüez campus. Mayagüez happens to be the place where I was born. And since then, there's been a very serious presence of people graduating from that campus and then going on to NASA. So
We
It
still
certainly
recruit
would
heavily
make
there.
both of us very happy if that relationship continues.
Yeah, we still recruit heavily, and I think we've got a CubeSat coming from one of the universities in
That's
Puerto
right.
Rico, flying here pretty soon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. NASA's Earth Science Division works to develop a scientific understanding of the Earth and its responses to natural and human-induced changes by using innovative satellites that collect data on the Earth's surface and atmosphere. In short, this information ultimately helps protect American lives and infrastructure in the face of extreme weather events such as hurricanes. The President's budget is proposing a significant reduction to NASA Earth Science, including the cancellation of several key Earth Science. Why is the administration proposing to reduce NASA's investment in Earth Science? Shouldn't we place an equally high priority on the study of our own planet, particularly in light of last year's hurricanes that struck Texas, Florida, Puerto Rico, and the U.S. Virgin Islands? And by the way, we made an agreement yesterday that since climate change upsets some people in the House, I'm just referring to something is going on. And we'll leave it at that.
Well, I think we think we have a good portfolio of science missions. We think the budget is adequate, and if you look at the entire cycle, what we call the Brotherton cycle of what is the Earth system, all the different things, clouds, ice, water levels, color, ocean color, rainfall, all the different things we measure. We believe we have a measurement in all those areas that allows us to look at the Earth as a system and provide the data to folks that we need. So even when we made the selections we made on cutting the missions that we talked about in the 19 budget, they were based on our prioritization of what we needed to be able to still understand the Earth as a system. And so that's why we made the decisions we made within the budget allocations that we had. So I think we're comfortable. We still have the whole Earth system understood, not understood, but we have data that lets us to help us to understand that going forward. So we don't have a gap in those areas.
You know, the difficulty, believe it or not, in having you as a witness is that you have a lot of respect from this committee, a whole lot of respect. So we don't want to argue with you, you know, and in any way try to make your life difficult here before this committee. But again, to the people you talk back home in the home office, this is not the right time to be doing this. I mean, the hurricane season in the Caribbean hasn't started yet. It starts soon. We have no idea what will pile up on top of what already has happened, and then in Florida and other places. So this just, you might be surprised to find that this has a bipartisan look where people say, why are we cutting this at this time? Administrator, you're aware of my interest in the Arecibo telescope in Puerto Rico, a 1,000-foot wide telescope used for radio astronomy, atmospheric science, and radar astronomy. Could you explain for our audience some of the most important ways that NASA and the nation continue to benefit from utilizing this telescope, and why it is important to maintain the robust funding for this facility? And I'm hoping you agree with me, otherwise the question is a terrible question.
Well, we use Arecibo for characterization of near-Earth objects. That's one of the things we do from a radio.
I'm sorry.
For near-Earth objects, we use it to understand. It's just part of the story. There's the radio, as you said, the radio astronomy that we get from Arecibo, and then we combine it with other assets we have across the nation to help identify what the shape, the size, the trajectory of these objects are. So I think NASA anticipates roughly about $4 million in 2019 that we would spend there to help with the characterization of these objects. So it's definitely a piece of our infrastructure that we use. So and we work closely with NSF on using it. So.
Do you know if the repairs have taken place after the hurricane? Because I know it took a hit also.
Yeah,
everything took a hit.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I do not know if they're completely done yet. I'd have to ask NSF for that one. So.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have no further questions. Just once again to thank you for your service
Sure.
to our country and wish you the best of luck.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.